So let's review finding slope, y-intercept, and writing the equation of the line. So remember that slope is going to equal the change in y over the change in x. So if I have 2 points, you're going to subtract the y's over subtracting the x's. Find the y-intercept. That's going to be b equals, and remember, that's when x is equal to 0, and you find the y value. Now, if you haven't been given the y-intercept, first you need to find the slope. Pick a point. Plug x, y, and m into y equals mx plus b. Solve for y. Solve for b. There we go. Then, writing the equation of the line, you just plug it into y equals mx plus b. You plug in the m, you plug in the b. So if I'm looking at this right here, first things first, you have to notice, I know it's hard to read these numbers, but if this is the point 2, -1, that means this is 2 here and this is -1 here. Oh, I should put a negative like here. So that means that this is 1, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. -1, -2, -3, -4. So these are actually, this right here is going up by a half. So each line is actually a half. So if I was to draw my triangle and I came down, let's try that again. Sorry. There we go. How far did I go down? I went down 4. How far across did I go? I went across 4. So my slope for this is going to be -4 over +4. So that means my slope is -1. My y-intercept is where it hits the y-axis, and that's the point 0, 1. So my b value is 1. I actually prefer you to write it like this, but I will accept either way. Then y equals mx plus b. You're going to replace the m and you're going to replace the b. So x, so I'm going to replace, now we don't write -1x, we just write -x, and then we're going to replace the b with 1. Then this one, again, remember that slope is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So if I'm looking at this, I'm going to go from here to here. It went down 6. So that means -6 is on top. And then I'm going to go here. This goes up by 2. So that means my slope is equal to -3. My y-intercept, remember that's the point 0, something here. So I look for when x is 0. So that means my b value is 2. So I'm going to write an equation in y equals mx plus b form. And I'm going to replace the x and the b. So if I replace the, not the x, the m, which is -3, and the b, which is 2. Now the cool thing about this next one is, look, it already gave you the equation. So this is my m, this is my b. So my m value is 3/5. My b value is -8. Okay, so let's come over here. So sometimes my students have a little bit more of an issue when it's 2 points. So you can go ahead and write the 2 points in a table. Remember, x is -6, y is -3. The second point, -3, -2. Then there are 2 ways you could find this. Okay, you can either do it by, I was going to do this, by writing this and doing the formula, or you can look at it like this. This goes up 1, this goes up 3. And so I would have gotten m equals 1/3. Or I could plug it in. Oops. If I plug it in, these are my y values. So I plug in -2 minus -3. Then I do my x values of -3 minus -6. Remember, when I have 2 negatives together, that turns to a plus sign. 2 negatives together, that turns to a plus sign. So on top, I would get -2 plus 3 is 1. And on the bottom, -3 plus 6 is 3. So either way, I get 1/3 as my slope. Now, if I'm looking at this right now, I don't have a point that has a 0 for my x value. And since I don't have that, we need to go up here to remember what it said up here. First, I find the slope, and I've done that. Now I need to pick a point and plug it into y equals mx plus b. Now I don't care which point you use. Here, let me pick -6, -3. Okay. This is my this is my y value. This is my x value. And then my slope is 1/3. So I'm going to plug that into y equals mx plus b. So I have a y value. So I'm going to plug in -3. I have an m value. I'm going to plug in my m value. I have an x value. I'm going to plug in my x value plus b. -3 equals, and some of you are like, oh, I don't like fractions. 1/3 times -6, which is -6 over 1. You multiply straight across. So that would get me -6 on top. Multiply straight across, that would get me 3 on bottom. That would get me -2. So -2, then plus b. I add 2 to both sides, and I get -1 is equal to b. So now I have the b value. I have the m value. So now I just need to plug it into my equation. Oh, I'll do this color. Y equals 1/3 x minus 1. Okay, now if I'm going to look over at this one, it's a word problem, and some of you are like, oh, I don't know. Well, first of all, when we're dealing with slope, there are some words that go with slope, and one of them is the word per. Sometimes you have the word each, and sometimes you have the word every. Then the y-intercept sometimes you have initial for an initial value or a starting value. Sometimes you have the word fee. So if I'm reading this, Jason needed to rent a truck. The company charges $19.99 for the rental and 25 cents per mile. Now, if I look at this, I see the word per. So that means my slope is going to be 0.25. Then the only other number in that is the $19.99. That's how much it costs to start off before I do anything. So then I write my equation. 0.25x plus $19.99.